Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. Oh viewers, I've wanted to drive one of these for a very long time. This is a 2000 Honda Civic 5-door. It's got the chassis code MB6 I believe, although the chassis number on this says MB4, so I don't quite know what's going on there, but I'm told this is an MB6. The 5-door Civics and the Aerodecks that were made in Swindon between 1995 and 2001 have the chassis codes MA, MB and MC. The most common chassis code I've seen for these is MB something, and of course the VTI ones of these were MB6s. I believe this one is as well. This is the 1.6 SE Executive, which was the top trim, the sort of the luxury for these. There was an SE Executive Sport as well, but the most important thing you need to know about this car is it's got a beige leather interior. You might be wondering, viewers, how can I possibly contain my excitement with a dark green car with a beige leather interior? And the answer is, well, I'm not sure that I can really, but I will try. So we'll open the boot with the key. You can also do it with the release that's inside. You can see all kinds of things are sort of in here. We've got, I think that's a door panel from an MGF and all sorts of other things in here. This car's not perfect. The fact it's done 88,000 miles suggests that it isn't, but it's pretty good for one of these. There's really not much rust on this at all. There's just, I think, one or two spots on one of the doors that just needs a bit of paint blowing over it. These cars do rust generally sort of around the arches and, you know, down on the sills is the places where they commonly go, but this has got any of that. The car is actually owned by Max from Discount MG Rover Spares. Obviously this is a very close relative of cars which were made by Rover and MG Rover, such as the HHR 400, the Rover 45 and the MG ZS. They're all based on the same platform as the 1992 Honda Demani, which is virtually the same underneath as one of the sort of EG or EH Civics, such as I've had on No Budget Reviews 2 years ago, the EG4 Civic. So they're all interrelated with each other, but this has a 1.6 Honda D series engine, no fog lights for some reason. In this case developing 123 horsepower. It says VTEC on the back, but I don't know what sort of VTEC this sort of is. Yeah, it's not the sort of VTI VTEC. Somebody maybe in the comment section below can sort of tell me, but I'm not really sure exactly what puts this apart from the earlier D series. Because yeah, it's not the sort of VTEC E, which had, you know, economical engine. It's not the screaming 167 horsepower B series. So there we go. Very similar sort of interior to something like a Rover 400 or 45. Steering wheel's a little bit different. I think only the early, let's change hands here. Only the early HHR 400s had a steering wheel like this. The later ones did not. Lots of wood, of course, or the wood, well, it's not real wood, unfortunately, but it's there. Same dashboard as a Rover 45 up until sort of, you know, mid-2004 when they facelifted it. See, my secret mission documents are here, and I don't know, maybe we'll be lucky today. No, we're not. So this car's been owned by Max's grandfather for some time. He's 92 at the moment, and he's sort of let Max have it, I think, to run around in. I think Max is going to do 1-2 jobs on it, and then he's going to offer it for sale, which is very tempting, viewers. Much too tempting. Yes. Fortunately, there's no sort of wood on the door cards, which is interesting because obviously the later 45s from the sort of Project Drive years onwards didn't have that either. But we have a typical instrument panel, which is really strange. I wonder what that switch was for. Next to where the cruise control would be on the high-spec 45s. And it's for a dimmable instrument panel, which no 45 got as far as I know. We do have the coin pocket in there, which contains all kinds of useful things. The clock actually works in this. It's a different clock than one I've seen on the 45s. I think they changed it later. Original Honda radio in this as well, like a cassette player, which is interesting. Electric window switches are mainly down here. The auto driver's one is there. That's supposed to contain tapes and things. Obviously we've got some nice hand gel in there, which is good. It's amazing, this almost top spec car does not have a leather steering wheel. But to be fair, a lot of the HHR 400s didn't have that either. Also, the key's a bit different. It looks more like a Honda Accord or Rover 600 key. Right, I suppose we better see how much legroom there is not in the back. Unlike on the 45s, the door handles aren't chromed. They never were on the Swindon Civics or Civic 5 doors. Both names are sort of used by enthusiasts, or you can try using, you know, MA, MB or MC model codes for these, but that gets really confusing. So most people just call them Swindon Civics or Civic 5 doors, because they are, well, the only ones that were made in Swindon at the time. The 3 doors and the 4 doors that were marketed at the same time, which are things like sort of EJEK chassis codes, those were made in Japan. So headlining has been what's been sort of pinned up a bit. That's a really common problem on these, as well as the Rovers. Electric sunroof, very posh. And do we get a centre armrest in this? Oh yes, beige leather armrest. Very comfortable, viewers. Very, very comfortable indeed. If this headlining wasn't sagging, a little bit more room than in the saloon versions of something like the 400 HHR and the 45. Electric rear windows and really weird sort of jazzy door cards in this. I thought they'd be leather, but they're not. Obviously they're sagging a bit in the front because they always do that, but that's just occupational hazard really. Let's take a look at the engine, shall we? I always find it fascinating seeing a D-series engined Swindon Civic, because this is the engine the car was actually built for when they introduced the Demani in Japan in 1992, and this is just a 5-door version of the Demani. Funnily enough, the saloon version of the 400 HHR or 45 has nothing to do with the Demani whatsoever in terms of the rear bodywork. That was the Rover Group or MG Rover's own work, and I think the saloon version of the 45 and HHR 400 is much more elegant than the Demani. Was the 5-door real panel work is much more similar. Maybe I prefer the look of the 400 hatch and the 45 hatch, but that's just personal preference really. You know how much I have an affinity for these cars. But the gearbox is on completely the other side, totally the other side. Actually, they did make a version of this car with Rover badges on it with the Honda engine. The 4.6 automatic until 1999 was a Honda engine one. It wasn't a K-series engine one or anything. So you could find this engine in Rovers up until that time. This particular one is 1.6 of 123 horsepower. The VTEC badge, I don't really know what that means. I don't see any obvious VTEC system on here, or maybe I'm totally wrong. And you can see there as well, but it says MB4, whereas I've been told this is an MB6. So yeah, answers in the comment section below about that. But gearbox on the left, not the right. It would be in a K-series version of this car or the KV6. Classic D-Series issue here with the cam cover gasket that's leaked a bit of oil, but the car's done 88,000 miles. It's not really a surprise. Very, very durable engines. If you change the cam belt on them at the recommended intervals and make sure as well that you service these properly, they can go for a very, very long time. Very occasionally they blow head gasket, but it's not nearly so common as a K-Series. These can run without oil or water sometimes, but I wouldn't recommend you do that, obviously. Yeah, just fantastic engine, a VVD series, even if it's not the most sonorous. Headlamps a little bit cloudy. It's quite common on cars of this series to do that. I'm sure that just needs a bit of a polish or something. I do get excited about local plates to the area as well, which this actually does have. Right, I better stop doing a D-Series rant and I better go for a drive, I suppose, viewers. I'm delighted to say that MG Rover content on this channel is still sponsored by Discount MG Rover Spares, or DMGRS, and here I am at their offices just near Southampton. So if you need parts for your 45, ZS, ZT, or any other model from the MG Rover era, and actually a little bit before that, then I'll put a link in the video description below. But my car's actually got two exclusive DMGRS solutions to it. It's got a metal thermostat housing, which is for the KV6 engine, and it's also got an upgraded heater resistor. But there are loads of other unique things. You can get the Sheddist kit, which is for manual 45s and ZS's. Lots of other things as well. And I'm very grateful to Scott, Max and Matt at DMGRS for continuing to help keep this car on the road by offering me some discounted parts, which is wonderful. So don't forget to visit DMGRS by clicking the link in the video description below. Oh, viewers, yes, an automatic Honda with a beige leather interior and air conditioning that is sort of working. What more could you ask for in life? So the Honda Civic, or Civic 5-door, was available with a range of engines from 1.4 to 1.8. The basic 1.4 either developed 88 or 90 horsepower depending on the model year. Right at the end, the final ones made from 99 onwards, they did change the engine a little bit, but it's not fundamentally different. The 1.5, which these came with, was available in two power outputs, about 88 again. I think that was in the VTEC E version, actually, the 88 horsepower version. I could be wrong about that. Later 1.5s developed about 112 horsepower. Weirdly, the earlier 1.6s developed either 112 or 114 horsepower, but by the time that this car was made in 2000, the 1.6 with no VTEC, this is just a standard single overhead cam, I think. One of these is about 123 horsepower. Actually, you can feel that. Max, who has inherited this car from his grandfather, actually, tells me it's quite slow. But to me, this feels pretty pokey. Actually, it feels a lot faster than the old 416 HHR I used to have. I think that only had 112 horsepower because it was 96. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. We do talk about is just the general kind of smoothness of this driving experience and how easy it is to drive. The engine is the most characterful ever. They're just not really the D series. The B series Well, I forgot to mention earlier on that there was a very, very nice 1.8 version of the B series in the 5-door Civic or Swindon Civic, and it was in the VTI and VTI S models, and that developed from its 1.8 litres of capacity 167 horsepower, which is considerably faster than this. I have been offered one of those to review. The car's actually off the road at the moment, so we haven't managed to get a date to do that yet, but we will at some point maybe. But yes, with this all-independent suspension setup, double wedge motors at the front, multi-link arrangement at the back, like a Rover 45, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, to be honest. It feels very, very easy to drive. The ride's quite good. It's maybe a touch firmer than some of the 45s I've driven, but it's not too bad. This sort of issue with the air conditioning compressor is a little bit annoying. It sounds like something's really loose under the bonnet when it's not, but you know, can't have everything, can you? Certainly just cruising on at 40 miles an hour, which is the speed limit through the New Forest, it feels absolutely fine. It's one of these situations where I really like this, and if I didn't already own a Rover 45 V6 myself, I might be quite tempted by this, because I think Max does eventually want to sell this, particularly because it's dark green with a beige leather interior, and I'm an absolute sucker for things like this. But you know, I must calm down and be sensible and just realise that, you know, I'd have too many cars if I bought this. So one of you better buy this already, before I, you know, get too tempted. Certainly the car doesn't feel like it's done 88,000 miles. It feels a lot less than that. But you know, these were built properly in Britain by people, I think, who cared quite a lot about it, and it's really interesting driving, you know, different versions of cars on this platform, which I've done a lot of over the course of many years, and just seeing the little subtle differences between them. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. So viewers, let's have a look at some trim levels for the Swindon Civic or Civic 5-door. There were some special editions, but the main trim levels I've been uncovering were ES, LE, LS, S. Sometimes there was just a 1.4i, which was the base model. SE Executive like this, SE Executive Sport, SE Sport. It's very confusing given all three. The VTI, which was the one with the 1.8 B series engine, and the VTIS, which was a slightly different version of that. So, is the MA, MB or MC Civic a car that you should consider with your hard-earned budget up to £1,000? Well, I certainly think so. You've got to watch for rust. You've got to watch to make sure that cam belt's been done in the engine. If you are buying a D series one, I think the B series also has a cam belt in it. And just generally look for signs of neglect. But these cars are still quite cheap. This one I think is worth a little bit more than £1,000, to be honest, given it's got a beige leather interior, and you know, it's been the same owner since 2001. But yes, I've certainly enjoyed myself very much. I don't know why that's a surprise. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Thank you to Max at DMGRS for letting me have a go in his grandfather's car. And we will see you again soon for more inexpensive motoring.